Hi, everyone. Welcome to Erasing Shame, Honest Talk Through Healthy Living. My name is Eunice Lee, and I've created a sub-podcast of Erasing Shame called Scene. Scene is a place for us as Asian Americans to talk about the systemic issues that cause shame in our community. We're going to be talking about as things as broad as the minority experience and Hollywood representation to as personal as anxiety and postpartum depression. Today, we're going to be focusing on the healthy living portion of our vision. And I'm here today with Colleen Nguyen from the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard to talk about cancer research in Asian Americans. Hi, Colleen.
Hi, Eunice. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Colleen is leading community engagement effort for Count Me In, a newly launched nonprofit for the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. CMI, or Count Me In, aims to advance and accelerate cancer research through direct patient and public engagement, particularly in communities that have long been underserved and underrepresented. Let's start. So, Colleen, what is the Broad Institute?
Great question. So the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard is a biomedical and genomic research institute. It's based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is right across the water from Boston. It is a collaboration, really, between the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, as well as Harvard University and the 5 local Harvard teaching hospitals within the Boston area. So I specifically work within the cancer program and Count Me In, which is a new initiative that was recently launched last month that really aims to revolutionize cancer research by partnering directly with patients. It's our hope that by doing so, we're able to accelerate scientific discoveries and breakthroughs, as well as develop new therapies, and maybe one day even find a cure.
Very cool. So why the focus on the Asian American community for you?
That is also another good question. So for me, other than me being Asian American myself, historically speaking, people of color, including Asian Americans, have long been underrepresented within science and medical research. As a whole, Asian Americans are actually quite heterogeneous. So if you're talking about cancer in general, it does affect and impact us in different ways because of how diverse our population is. And that varies from cancer incidence, so the rate in which new cases are being diagnosed a year, to the mortality, as well as the types that are being diagnosed. So for an example, would be Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese. Those people of those descents tend to have higher rates of liver and stomach cancer. We actually account for, as someone who is Vietnamese, we actually account for, up to a quarter of, mortality in just those 2 cancers. And it's the same thing with, Vietnamese women tend to have the highest rates of cervical cancer. And that's in comparison to all ethnicities and races, including Hispanics. But overall, we do have a lower mortality rate from cancer itself. But there are certain cancers that seem to impact some parts of our population.
Wow.
That being said, the reason that we are really trying to engage with different and diverse communities over at CMI is because, we haven't been kind of included in this conversation or the process of cancer research itself. I think research has really shown that in more recent research studies, including clinical trials, which can help with the development of new drugs or therapies, Asian Americans only represent about 3% of people within those studies, which is far below the 6% that we actually, represent within the entire U.S. population. As a result, a lot of the drugs that are currently available for cancer treatments may not be as effective within our own populations because, if you're talking about generalization in regards to therapies and drugs, some may be more effective than others, but if we aren't being represented in those studies, what we have right now available is very limited. And once those drugs, like once you're treated with those certain drugs and maybe you develop resistance to it, which often happens in cancer, you have a very limited number of options after that. And so that's why we're really trying to engage with communities like the Asian American community to really start diversifying not only like participation and populations and really being inclusive of everyone, but this is really the only way to move progress forward for all of us.
So wow, 3% of cancer research is for Asian Americans, and yet Asian Americans represent 6% of cancer patients.
And really just 6% of the entire, American population. And so, like I said, in regards to like generalization, like only having a small subset of people and not being truly representative of the Asian American population as a whole, it's really hard to find therapies that will actually, truly work for us.
So it's different. It sounds like it's some therapies, different ethnicities react differently or respond differently.
Yeah. So what we're coming to find, and I know that this is such a buzzword and has been in the scientific community the last few years, is really the rise of precision medicine, right? Being able to tailor medicines or treatments based on our genetic, makeup and predisposition. The issue is that if we're not participating in that process, the information that scientists and researchers have for our populations, for other, Vietnamese people like myself who may have the same genetic markers, it may not work for me.
Wow.
And so that's kind of like, it's a much bigger question of, and I've had this conversation before with other communities of color as well, is just, in order to really save ourselves, we do have to become a part of the process to save our family members, save our friends, to save the next generation. If medicine is being developed, through these means, it's time for us to be a part of the process. I mean, decisions are made by those who show up, and it's time for us to really take a seat and be a part of this.
Wow, so it sounds like what you're saying is that if somebody who is a cancer patient decides to be a part of this process, they're actually going to be helping their family, their community in understanding what works and what doesn't for Asian Americans.
Yes. That's like the greatest potential, I think, for this particular project and the Count Me In initiative, which is really kind of anyone who chooses to participate. While we may not be able to, develop the therapies and the discoveries right now for them, it is our hope that we are able to, contribute to the next, big thing that comes out of the cancer research, specifically for Asian Americans, and really just like communities across the board. But if I chose to like donate my saliva or donate my medical record, which really shows a number of things. So donating something like your medical record will show researchers whether or not a drug has worked for you and why it's worked for you. Is it because you have certain, genetic predispositions? Are there other therapies that are currently available but being used in different capacities that could potentially work for you as well, given those markers? And it's really being able to open up this much larger database and looking at what's already out there and aggregating it right into one place where people can go and see if they can make discoveries or if there are certain linkages and things like that, common patterns.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's not too, I'm imagining that when we hear cancer research, we're thinking like going into the lab and doing all these blood tests and things like that. But what I'm hearing is that it's not always so invasive, that there are a lot of options for the people who are.
It's definitely not invasive at all. And the great thing about this is that people can choose how to participate with whatever they're comfortable with at whatever comfort level. So for example, if you want, and you are a cancer patient and would like to contribute, you can choose to provide a saliva sample. That is completely covered by the Broad. You sign up. It's really easy. You can go to the website. You sign up. a saliva kit will be sent to you. It'll look very similar to like a 23andMe box or Ancestry.com box. It's the same spit tube, and you just kind of put your spit in, send it back. It's prepaid, taken care of. You can also choose to provide a blood sample if you want. That's also covered, and you can either get it through a courtesy draw at your local clinic office, or we also partner with Quest Diagnostics, and so you can go to any Quest lab in the United States and get that draw done for free as well. You can choose to donate tumor tissue if you want to. So let's say you got a biopsy 10 years ago. The truth is, and I don't know if most people know this, when you get a biopsy done or any sort of like tissue procedure, all of that tissue is actually stored in hospitals for decades. So if you call, like we've called hospitals and pathology offices at hospitals to request like, hey, Jane Doe has chosen to participate in our study. She really would like for us to study her tumor. But the surgery was 10 years ago, they'd be like, oh yeah, actually that's on the shelf right now. Let me go, as long as the consent forms and everything are signed, let me send it to you. And then what we do back here at the Broad is we actually go and genomically sequence that. And then whatever's left, we actually send it back to the hospital. So it's there for you. Mm-hmm. People, if they'd like to participate and choose to donate like a medical record. So that gives us like this record history, right? Which is super invaluable because it now shows us like, what treatments may have been working for you, when they may have stopped working, and then we can start figuring out like, why is that? Has there, has a mechanism of resistance actually developed? Are there certain genetic markers that are causing that resistance? Is there another therapy on the market that might work better for people with those certain markers? Things like that.
Oh, that's really interesting.
It's super low touch. It is at the comfort of which the patient or participant chooses. I would say that it's fairly easy as well. So, that was the whole point. We really wanted people to be able to participate even from like their couch. And the truth is that 85% of cancer care actually happens in community settings. So they're not coming to Dana-Farber in Boston. They're not coming to UCSF in San Francisco, or even being treated at Memorial Sloan, New York, or MD Anderson, Houston. Those are the bigger, cancer comprehensive centers. They're actually being treated at the neighborhood clinic down the street from you, and they're getting their chemo and radiation therapy there, and they aren't being asked to participate in research. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we kind of created this new model where we'd be able to reach people where they are.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And I'm sure that the Asian American community is so tight-knit that I'm sure that everybody knows somebody who's been impacted by cancer. And so this information is really valuable to get it out there because, as many people who share this video, they know a family member, a friend, a community group person, or even a small group, a person or someone in their church that has cancer, has been in touch with cancer. So I think this information is really helpful. So Colleen, how can these listeners help you further research for Asian American cancer patients?
So that's a great question. So one of the principles that we kind of really live by here and work along here at CMI is really working with communities first and people within the community to start talking about these projects. I think the best thing that we could do right now is really to start talking about it, spreading the word, talking about cancer within our own families and our friends and our social circles. I think this is something, at least personally for me, has been, not very many people talk about it. When there is a diagnosis, it's often, hidden or talked about. Like I've had friends and family come to me to talk about options or to learn more about, what it is about. But it tends to be fairly hush-hush. And I think being able to start socializing it and getting it out there and just being more open will be a first start. So spreading the word. And then, if anyone has any questions, I'm always available. You can always email me. My email address is colleen@broadinstitute.org. Yes, I am the only Colleen here, surprisingly. And I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have. I also set up a Google form that people could fill out if you'd like for me to even just give you a call. And if you have any questions. But it's really just starting there, starting with people in the community first. And for me, it is a learning experience, you know, like this hasn't really been done before within cancer research, being able to partner with, you know, people in the community beyond like patients too. So, you know, cancer does affect the patient, but also affects everyone around them. And especially in communities like ours, which tend to be a lot more communal, you know, individual decisions often are linked with communal decisions.
Yeah.
And so for me, it is a learning experience to really just listen and learn and see how we can go about like socializing this concept and how we can make it work for everyone, you know, so that we can move progress forward for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're doing some really great work. And do you have any other resources that you want to share that we can either put on our show notes or that you would want to share right now?
Yeah. So our website is joincountmein.org. You can learn all about it there, kind of like the entire initiative, what we hope to, you know, our hopes and dreams for the future of cancer, and hopefully eliminating it. But we have 4 cancer projects that are ongoing right now. The first one being the Metastatic Breast Cancer Project. You can go to mbcproject.org and check that out. We also have a Metastatic Prostate Cancer Project, and that's mpc.project.org. We also have one for Angiosarcoma, which is actually a relatively rare sarcoma. About 300 people are diagnosed a year in the United States. So I think that's ascproject.org. And then the project that I have been really deeply involved in, which is Gastroesophageal Cancer Project, or gecproject.org. That's the 4th and remaining one. We do have a couple of projects that are coming out in the pipeline in the spring. We hope to launch an Osteosarcoma Project, which is a predominantly pediatric bone cancer, as well as a brain cancer project in the spring. And the brain cancer project is something that I'm also deeply involved in as well, and just the development of all of that. Yeah, and I think that's it. There is a form. I think I'm going to I'll add the Google form URL for you so that you have it. But if anyone has any questions, you know, feel free to reach out.
Great. Yeah, great. And, you know, we're releasing this video right before Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving break so that when people see this, they can translate to their parents and their uncles or aunties what exactly you're doing, Colleen, so that there will be more awareness spread throughout the community. So, yeah.
Well, I really appreciate it. I mean, I think this is, first off, I'm really grateful to have this opportunity, but I think this is really the time to really start talking about this. I think it's a great opportunity to really take a deeper dive into those conversations. I think Thanksgiving is a great time to go about doing that. Great. And I definitely think that I'll be doing that this Thanksgiving with my family.
Great. Awesome. Well, so just, any last words or?
I mean, just, you know, thank you so much for the opportunity for having me share this with the community. I really look forward to speaking with anyone who might be interested, even anyone who might have questions, you know, feel free to reach out. I'm here.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Colleen.
All right. Thanks, Eunice.
Thanks.